Awesome. I want you to take notes today. We're going to talk about something pretty important. And yes. So I have like a couple of random thoughts that don't have to do with what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to start there because they're fresh in my mind. So I want to talk about them first. The first thing is, I had a conversation a few days ago, and it was one of those conversations I had that I walked away, I was like, I thought about it for a while, like after I had it, just because it was interesting, it was revealing, it was good, it was a good conversation. But it made me think about something that I was like, you know what, this is probably something good to just hit on with this team, especially as our department, as we talked about last week, is expanding. There's more people. Whenever there's more people inside of a department, things have to like change. Like we have to accommodate growth, right? So think about when you have a house and you have 2 kids and you have a third. Like where's that third kid gonna go? You have to make adjustments. You have to make transitions. You have to make changes. And that's like we're just throwing them.
They'll figure it out.
There's a lot in here somewhere. Right? You have to make adjustments because your family's growing. So it used to look this way. It doesn't look this way anymore. You know, for me, you know, I love Mehdi. You know, I want him in my heart. But I was bummed when we lost that booth size at the restaurant because it always means a longer wait for a party 5. You know, so I don't hold it against him. I love my son, but you know, like, you know, just so sometimes I'm always like, can we just add a chair? She's like, no, that could be a fire hazard. I'm like, how many times has your restaurant caught fire? I'm just curious. But anyway, you have to make adjustments. You have to make changes. And so, as I'm thinking about our team and how it's growing, I just want everyone to kind of be open-handed with what some of those changes look like. I don't really know all of them right now. I'm learning a lot. I'm figuring out a lot. I'm trying to gather a lot of information. But I also want to make room for growth and make room for the people that we have coming in. And so if organizationally things have to change, just in terms of supervisors and the directors and all that kind of stuff, be careful with how you process that. Like, these aren't demotions or anything crazy like that. We're making room for growth, and it's what we have to do. I mean, it would be great if everyone in the organization reported to Dan Zambardi. That would make everybody feel, but he can't have 200 direct reports, you know. And so that's just something that I felt like important to say because, again, over the next few months, as I'm figuring that out and kind of working on those things, I want everyone to go. I want your mindset to be, I got a seat at the table. Like, I'm at the table. That's what's most important. There's no pecking order at the table. It's just, you're here. You're a part of it. And that's just really cool. That's really cool that we get to do this, that we get to be a part of it. And sometimes it just means, like, some shifting, some adjusting. So just kind of keep in mind that as we figure that all out, we'll probably need grace. There's a chance that we could go, here's how it's going to be. And they go, actually, just kidding. It's not going to be like that. You know, I'm going to try really hard to think through everything and make everything make sense. Dan's been great about helping me think about that organizationally. And I just want you guys to know that I always want to be accessible to you. That doesn't mean, you know, I appreciate something about DZ. Like, he'll work with his door open. So the other day I said, do you have a second? And I was like, how many times do you hear that a day? He goes, many seconds. Many seconds I hear that. Sometimes he goes, I need 5. Or, hey, I need, or can we circle back? Or, hey, can I call you on my way home? But he works really hard to be accessible to as many people as he can. And I've learned a lot from that. And so that's how I want to be. Just know that if it doesn't ever, like, happen in the moment or that I'm going to circle back, that it's fine for you to go, hey, you can circle back with me because I want to be available and accessible to you. I also just want your grace and patience as we grow and we expand and things look a little bit different. Cool? Everybody cool? Awesome. Okay, that's all. That was that. It's nothing to do with this. Moving on. Okay. So this is something that I want to talk about because as we've defined the weekend win. Everybody knows here's what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to create a dynamic worship experience across all of our campuses. I'm working hard to get to 2 to 3 campuses a weekend when I can. I was at Mobile and Woodcrest yesterday. I loved the experiences, they were great. I want to harken, if I don't remember, I want to go back to something that you put in your eval because I think it's a really good word for everybody. So if I forget, will you remind me at the end?
Me?
Nothing private, you,
Yeah.
you Danielle, probably.
Yes.
So now that we've defined the weekend win, we all know what we're working for. There should be no ambiguity or vagueness around that. The vision is to create a dynamic worship culture. The win is when we're prepared, when our teams are prepared, when we're prepared as leaders. When you got that Addy work ethic, you're coming in hot, you know your words, you know your lyrics, you know your team, you've scouted and vetted the drummer, like you're ready, you're ready to go, okay? You're present, your preparation has made you be able to be present with your team. You're not glued to your iPad, you're not trying to remember what that verse was. You're prepared, so you're present, you're in the room. You're present enough to know that your production lead isn't, right? Because they're not. But if you're not present, you don't know that either because you're trying to look at all these other things. And then you're with your people. You're engaging. What I'm loving on the evals is when you guys are sharing some awesome people dynamics of things that have happened or things that you're observing, or you're observing all of that because you're present, because you're with them, because you value them. And you're able to be present and with your people because you're prepared, right? So that's the weekend win. That's what we're all working for. Before we even get to the weekend though, what we need to start talking about, this is gonna be personally, this is gonna be you as a person, apart from worship leader you, and also you as a worship leader. This is something that goes together. Because now I wanna dig a little bit into what do you look like, what are your habits that equip you to be prepared? What does it look like for you Monday through Thursday going into the weekend? And there's some things that I think that we need to all be on the same page with. I'm going to go over this with production as well because it's as much their responsibility as it is ours. Okay, so I want to talk about effectiveness first. Simple definition for effectiveness: the ability to be successful and produce the intended results. Okay, what's our result? It's a dynamic worship experience every weekend. Okay, so here's what the goal is. Here's how I'm being effective. Are the things that I'm doing, are my personal habits, are is my alone time, are my daily disciplines, are those things that are helping me be more or less effective? Okay, so here's a simple real-time example. My kids sleep, which is wonderful. I know Matt Ritchie's like, there will be a day. I'm like, hold on, right? My kids, we're gonna do an experiment when he doesn't have to help take care of the dog, to let him sleep for as long as he can before we wake him up. He might go full 24 hours, guys. I don't know. That dude can go to straight a coma, okay? They sleep. I don't have to wake them up unless they have to get up. Well, today, ladies come to clean the house, they gotta get up. It's not even that early, you guys. I'm in their rooms at 9:30, and they are dead, right? Dead. Meddy's literally like, is it morning? I'm like, yes, it's morning, son. You went to bed at night, it's morning. Like, they're just, okay, so when we finally get into the car on the way here, and they're all getting reamed out because they weren't ready on time, because the dog, like, all the things, I said, correct or incorrect? You were up too late last night? Correct. I'm like, yeah. Because I thought Elijah was going to scare me, so I was trying to stay awake. I was like, that was a bad decision. I protected you from getting scared. You should have gone to bed when your mother told you to go to bed because I knew you had to get up. So I'm talking to Elijah. He's like, I was up. I'm like, no, you weren't up. You're mean, you're grouchy, you're rude, you're throwing your stuff in the car, like all these things, right? Because you're being ineffective this morning because you had ineffective habits last night. Some of us are ineffective as leaders because we don't have effective habits in our personal disciplines. So this is why this matters, okay? So next question or slide. So the question is, how effective are you as a worship leader? How effective could you be if you made some changes to some of your personal habits during the week? For me, I decided that working out 4 times a week was going to be a priority and a discipline for me. and as a full-time working mother, all the things that I do, that required me to make some shifts. It required me to make some adjustments. It required me to say no to some things. It required me to say less Netflix and more sleep. Like, I had to just make adjustments to make that a priority, right? Because I feel like that helps make me more effective, just as a person, how I feel about myself, going about my day. So I want you to think, I don't know what your things are, but I want you to start thinking about what are some things that I'm currently doing that are making me less effective in my role. What are some things that I could start doing or stay consistent with that are making me more effective as a worship leader, okay? And when you think about effectiveness as a whole in terms of your groups and your teams, I want you to think about how you lead rehearsals. How would your team describe your rehearsals? Okay, let's move on to the next one. Because here's the key. These two things go together. Efficiency. The quality of being able to do a task successfully without wasting time or energy. Everyone's time is valuable. Everyone's time is valuable. This meeting is going to get restructured because your time is valuable to me. I don't remember when I cut it from 2 hours to 1 hour, but it's probably going to change again. Like, not because I don't love seeing you, but because your time is valuable to me too. Because I want you to have time to be effective in the role that we're paying you to come through and do every week, okay? Your volunteers' time is valuable. If you're not leading effective rehearsals and efficient rehearsals, you're wasting their time. So here's what it looks like. It looks like someone getting a request and thinking, dude, this is going to be 3 hours on a Thursday. Like, this is going to be, or I like being on their team because, man, we get in, we have fun. Like, no one's like, get in your place, get your gains. Like, no one's like, it's not like military, but it's like, we're laughing, we're fun, but we're moving. We are getting stuff done. We are moving ahead. They are the leader. They are giving me lots of time and heads up throughout the week to know what to do and what that looks like and what I need to have done, so that when I show up after I've been at work all day, after I haven't had dinner, after I haven't seen my kids, I haven't seen my husband, haven't seen my wife, just been working, you know. I remember, what was that dude's name? It ain't been that long in my memory. Corey, right? Corey? Yeah, sorry. I was like, I didn't have to dig deep, but I had to think. He showed up for rehearsal one day, like in a shirt and tie. And I was like, oh, dude, like, I didn't really know. I was like, hey, what do you do? I don't remember what he said to that either, but he was he was hot off the presses from whatever it was. The boy had no food. The boy had no Hot Pockets. He just showed up, and there he was in his shirt and tie. And you know what? It was a reminder for me, like, this is what our team. These are the people that make up our team. Like, he didn't stop and grab dinner on his way because it would have made him late. Their time is valuable. And when you're going into planning your rehearsals, you have to remember that you need to lead in such a way that you get everything accomplished that you need to get accomplished, but you get it done without wasting time or energy. That's why this is going to go to production too. Because they shouldn't waste our time. We shouldn't waste their time. Everyone needs to come and go, and we're going to make this as efficient and effective as possible, okay? So how would your team describe your rehearsals? How would they describe service run-throughs? Again, both people in the marriage are going to hear the same. You know, I'm the counselor going, well, what was your part? What do you need to, right? It goes, because you could be on your point. You could be on your game. Like, you're ready, you're rolling, everything's ready, and we're like, and they're like, we need 20 more minutes. Oh, okay, because trying to figure out, we all saw them the call times on planning center, trying to figure out what memo you didn't get, right? And then there's other times where they're ready to roll and we're still trying to figure out, like, everyone needs to be thinking that my team's time is valuable, the production team's time is valuable. Production needs to be thinking these worship volunteers, their time is valuable, because in the end, we don't get to our desired result of the dynamic worship experience if we're not being effective and efficient, okay? So, efficiency directly affects your effectiveness. So I want you to think, I want you to take just a few seconds and I want you to think about what is something that start today to be more efficient with your time management, with your the set planning logistics and details? What's something that you could start today to say, I'm going to become more efficient with this so that I can be more effective with this? And I don't know what that is for you. Some of you don't lead every weekend, so I don't know what that habit or that discipline could look like. For some of you, it might be like, dude, I haven't talked to so-and-so on my team in like months, and like they're, right? For some of you, it's, dude, I've got to get super in the weeds of building this team, right? I've got to get, so I'm going to have to figure out some things to do, some ways to be more efficient with my time so that I'm reaching out to people, making connections. I'm celebrating Garrett's like awesome weekend. Man, you want, on the other side of that weekend, you want to affirm and appreciate every single person that made that for you, because that's you're getting buy-in, and they want to come back. They want to drive up the mountain again for you, right? You get on the other side of a weekend that was rough. Spend some time efficiently evaluating what could have gone better. What do I need to troubleshoot for the next time? But you have to think about these two things as going together, because they do, right? Because they're married to each other. Just like we're married to production, and some days we're like, we want a divorce, right? And some days we need therapy, and some days we are so in love, right? It's a relationship, it's a seasonal kind of a thing. But I'm promising this: if both worship and production go, this is something that I'm working on. This is something then the marriage could be a happily ever after sort of an ending. Like, it really could be. But if both teams don't like grab onto this and hold on to it and make it like a priority, then that's when things go awry. That's when the evaluations keep coming in hot, like, that's still a thing? That's still a problem? Why isn't that a thing? So just as you kind of hear this and as we talk about it, what are some things that are coming to your mind as like, here are some, because you may be thinking about an idea and you're thinking, this is so dumb, like no one else. And yet speaking it out loud makes someone else go, oh dude, like that's golden. Like that's totally something I need to do. But as you evaluate your own personal efficiency and effectiveness, what are some things that you're like, you know what, this conversation's made me think of, I want to start this, I want to start doing this. I think I might say no to that so that I can do more of this. Like, what are any of those things that might be coming to your mind, if any? Care to share? Taylor, you don't have to raise your hand, but thank you.
Okay. I think for me, as I'm like starting to build like the youth team, and it's almost from scratch, we don't really have a lot of youth that are already in worship. I think a big part of like them even wanting to like spend their time doing something like that would be like just spending time with them, trying to get buy-in by just being their friend first, by hanging out with them intentionally, being like, hey, let's go get coffee and like chill, or like, let's go play video games or whatever, or just being very intentional with the students, instead of me just like seeing them on Wednesday night and being like, hey, like, why aren't you on the worship team yet? I heard you play guitar. And being like, hey, like come try out, and give them my number, and then like that be it. Just really intentionally seeking out, because I think the relationship, if that comes first, they're gonna be bought in a lot quicker than if I'm just nagging them about it.
For sure.
That's something I would like to start being more intentional about.
Yeah, and that's effective relational building. Like, that's what that is. That's effective relational building. People that are bought into you, they're bought into your team, they're bought into your request, right? They don't buy into you, that request gets iffy, they're hitting that red X. Like, that's just, so effective relational building is a huge part of it. That's good. What else comes to mind?
You kind of have to put in more grunt work on the front end to be more efficient on the back end.
Yes.
So being able to get really, really intentional with fleshing out specific keys, transitions, musical ideas, and having that not only thought of in my head, but communicated on the front end earlier in the week, like, hey, I want to do this or try this. Hey, here's an example and then being able to give our team as much time as possible. So
Yeah.
when they come in on Thursday, then just like zips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that end, that's an excellent point, because it depending on your leadership style, you can look at kind of the set, have it kind of down in your mind. This is what it's going to look like, and then, oh, here's a transition. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say, here's what would not be preferred. That on Thursday night, on stage with everyone, here's a transition for you to say, what do you guys want to do? Please don't do that. Like, please show your value and their worth in another way. Buy them a tea or a coffee, but that's not an efficient use of people's times. People are coming in, and if you're not sure, then make a decision and go with it. And if it's not going to work, connect with your band leader later and go, hey, do we need to fix that? Preferably work that out with your band leader before then, you know. So, but there's been times I've done that. I'm like, I don't know, what do you guys think? And then I'm like, this was a horrible idea because her idea sucks. What he's saying is, I don't even understand. Like, and now you've got more time to spend going, like, here's why your idea sucks, but I love you and appreciate you and want you to make sure you show up on Sunday. Like, it's not an effective way to lead, okay? And I'm going to say this to some of you who maybe are not as, you know, Eddie can say what he said, and everyone goes, yeah, Eddie, because, like, you're a genius, and you know, maybe you feel like even if your musicality you don't feel like is up to par with someone else on your team, you're still the leader. You're still the one in the driver's seat. So if they have an idea, you're like, dude, let's take that offline, let's talk about it, because maybe for next time that'd be a cool. If you see someone on your team and you really think, hey, Nick Moore might have a really good idea on how to do this transition, then you know you're emailing Nick Moore Sunday night, Monday morning. You're not having that conversation Thursday night in front of everybody. So again, it's efficient, it's effective. You want people to feel like, man, rehearsal was moving. I know how to get from A to B to C, and I feel good about my part. I feel good about my role in those things. That's really good.
And also as part of that, like getting it out of your brain and into like your fingers and voice and stuff, especially when it comes to keys and transitions.
Yeah.
Because I know I've done it before where you do like a verse and a chorus or figure out a part and you're like, yeah, it should be fine. And then you get to rehearsal and like, oh no, not fine. Yeah, because a lot of things can make sense like
Yes.
cognitively, and then you go to actually physically do it and it feels a lot different. And then that puts you in not the greatest position of leadership in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. A phrase that I've been saying, and it's not something that I want, like, you know, to get spread out, and we won't put any tags on Planning Center that, like, next to someone's name, they're the lowest common denominator. Like, we don't want to, like, assign that to someone. But in your efficiency and in your effectiveness, over communicating the details so that the people on your team who have the least amount of musicality, the least amount of experience, the least amount of know-how, the least amount of creativity feel really good, handlebars, they're coming in feeling really secure and really prepared. It's the same thing I talk about, like, you know, hey, even with step planning team, let's give them as many details, because I know that some worship leaders like, okay, cool, like I got it. But then we've got Rogo leaders, they want every inch of communication and detailed information that you have to give them. So think about your teams in the same way, okay? And guys, think about when you were doing this for the first time, first 2, 3, 4 times, right? You've got people coming onto your teams every week, and that's exactly what this experience is for them. So if they're just coming in like, I didn't know, what was that? But they come in and, man, you've been so efficient in your communication with them. They're going to be really effective at the role that you've given them to play. Don't leave things to chance. Don't just assume people know. Don't just assume, well, I've been serving with them for forever. Give them all of those things. Give them all of those things. It's good.
A couple months ago when we didn't have a rehearsal, I put like a bunch of notes in, and I wasn't that guy at all. Like I just, you know, kind of let's do whatever. And since then I've been doing it, because after that weekend everybody's like, that was so cool, you put all those notes in there and everything. And so I was like, all right, keep doing it, and like everyone's responded really well. I thought it was going to be something that would come across maybe even as like controlling or overbearing or something, but they're like, no, like we wanted to know like what to do.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a light bulb.
So what's been the result from before you were doing that to now that you're doing that on a regular basis? What have you seen be different?
It just seems like they're not as confused coming in, you know, because you get a lot. I get less questions about like what's going on. You still get those questions, you know, even though you put stuff on there, so people still ask the same questions that are answered in there, but there are less of them. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And I didn't say one thing I learned this weekend, which was to leave some capacity and like for myself and like what I'm capable of, because I kind of maxed myself out last weekend on like tasks to do, because I saw like, oh yeah, there's some really cool leads like in this on electric. I can play lead like as well in like in between things. So then, you know, but I didn't think about the fact that yeah, you're gonna go to rehearsal, and even if like I feel like in a vacuum I can do all those things maybe, like there's a bunch of other people that are leaning on you as a leader to answer questions, and then production's answering questions, and then there's a weird guy walking around the campus that day, and then there's all this stuff going on, which then you don't have any I didn't have any leeway, and I like melted down like before service, because it's like I'm trying to remember my leads and trying to remember these words and trying to remember all this stuff, and it's like it would have been better just to not have any electric guitar and be able to be more present and lead the team well, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not
Awesome, but awesome observation, evaluations, because now you, Tammy always likes to say, well, we know better, we do better, you know? So you're like looking at that going, okay, that was too much, you know? I could have been on acoustic and no one would like, oh, in this church there's no lead electric, right? How's that gonna happen? You know, so chances are.
And I actually served with a volunteer a couple weeks ago at Palm that had the previous week been with DeLon, a vocalist, and I got to see the difference in how that vocal rehearsal went, because I was playing acoustic for them for vocal rehearsal, and then her saying how much she liked and it was helpful the week before doing it the way DeLon did with having notes and stuff, because Johnny and Mandy Kesey are just like, we're like halfway through a song and they're like going and just figuring it out, and they'll like stop at one point and Johnny's like, any questions? And the other volunteer's like, yeah, what would you like me to sing? And it's just like, and it's fine, like it turned out fine, and she's very talented, like can figure stuff out, but to know like there's a definite difference when that extra work is put in ahead of time, like to know that she like actually said like, I really appreciate that this was the case.
Becca has stated many times on her eval that that's the feedback she gets from the teams, that when she puts all those notes up there, everyone just feels like really good and really confident, and that's what you want. You know, you can look at a stage, you can look at a platform of people and see a couple of things just from body language. You can see tentativeness, you can see unpreparedness because they're glued, like they don't even know if there's a fire in the building because they're not looking off of that iPad, right? Or you can see freedom, and freedom is the goal. Freedom is everyone's up here secure in their role, secure in what they're doing. They've been equipped well to do it, and now look at them. They're leading. We're winning. Like they're present. We are winning the weekend because we've done all the legwork. And so, you know, one of the interesting conversations I've had, you know, with Dan just about the organization and kind of how it's growing is taking a hard, you know, fast look at the number of hours that we're saying, hey, this is what you need in order to do your job, right? This is because you've got people with different capacity and different motor and all that. But one of the things that I think, and I'm doing this for myself, so it's something that, again, same talk here, we just package this up and moving on to the same talk there. The efficiency comes down to how you're spending your time, like what you're doing with your time. And so one of the reasons why when we came out, I said, hey, we're gonna table songwriting just for now, like the amount of time, because there's so many structural things that we just don't have in place, that we just don't have nailed down. But I've fought hard to get hours like in place for worship leaders based on what we know you're responsible for. And so what I want to challenge you with is, be at 25 or be at 40, I think what you're given hours wise is enough for you to be really efficient and really effective as a worship leader. I really do. Just based on, you know, what we're saying, here's what's before you. For some of you, you've got 2 services that you're responsible for on a weekend, and I want you to be faithful with that. Some of you have 5. That's a buttload of extra time, you know, to your week. So what you do is how Eddie structures his week is gonna have to look different than Morgan's, just because he's got 3 more services. He's got that half day on Sunday that he's, you know, Saturday that he's responsible for. Same with Danielle, with Palm. Like, it has to be structured differently. But what I'm challenging with is whatever role you've been given, look at your week, right? Look at it and go, okay, I could become more efficient here. I could put this aside to be more efficient with this. I would be more effective as a worship leader, as a human, if I stopped doing this, right, and started doing this. Sometimes, you know how when it feels like a good idea to binge watch, like Netflix, you're like, who cares if I'm up to 3:30 once, right? I remember when House of Cards first came out. That show got so dark, by the way.
Yes.
But I was like, I can't look away. Like, I can't. Like, what's he gonna do next? This Frank Underwood. Like, I was so. And so I remember saying to Adam, like, I'm just gonna binge watch like twice, like just 2 nights, and I deserve it. And I work hard. And I've got these effing kids, right? I'm gonna do this, right? I felt so awful, so terrible. I was horrible the next day. I was a total B. I was just. Not me, the amen.
Wow. Tim like felt that. He felt that like an assault.
Tim's like, I think we had a meeting that day.
I was resonating with your vulnerability.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I received that.
Confession.
I received that, yes.
When he leads you, it's his kindness that
Yeah,
leads you
his
to
kindness
repentance.
leads to repentance.
Oh, sorry. Allergic.
But you guys know what I'm talking about. So I'm asking you to like take whatever season of life you're in, single, married with kids, married and almost no kids at home.
I want more examples.
Yeah, I'm running out.
More.
Single, married. All right, we've covered the bases. Whatever that looks like for you, whatever season, you're responsible for that season of life. Like, you're responsible for it, and God tells us that He's with us in it. So we have what we need to do what we need to do. We just have to be accountable for it and be responsible with it. So that's really what I want you to leave here today thinking about how efficient, how effective, what would my team say? Like, if I asked them, like, what would they say? Is there a more efficient, effective way I could lead rehearsal? Is there a more efficient, effective way I can manage my time? It's just a good self-check. And I think it matters because the more we delve into this, the better our results will be. Delon's example just lends itself. When I started doing this, and how much more time a week did that take you to put those notes on Planning Center?
Not a terrible lot.
Yeah, not a terrible lot. Did you say that?
I did. So. I was trying to think.
It's
of
very
numbers.
I'm trying to
specific.
get like 20, 30 minutes, not a terrible lot. So, however you want to quantify that, yes. Delon's still being a husband, he's still being a dad, he's still practicing, and he also got that done. That's the win, that's the lesson. So, as you think about, here's my role, here's what I'm responsible for, here's what I'm working on or working towards, just do some self-evaluation of how you can continue to be super efficient with your time and super effective as a worship leader. Because the more hard work you're going to put in now, you know, Pablo's sitting in the seat of a person who is in the fruitful season of the harvest that he planted. It was hard. It was hard work. You're experiencing some of the same, like, oh my gosh, right? But now that hard work, that discipline, it's paying off. It pays off. So I want you to kind of keep that in the forefront of your mind. Okay? Cool? Awesome. A quick update. It looks like Stephen Beck may be here as early as July 8th. So she got her visa. That was a climb every mountain, cross every sea. Like, we were like, yes. We laid the fleece out. The Lord said, no, it's going to be dry. We're going to need that to be wet. And then it came through. So Steve is like ready to hop on a plane. You know, tomorrow I'm like, all right. I mean, have
guys
a,
had to work that out.
do you have a
between two.
residence?
Yeah.
Like, do you have,
Lots between them.
do you need groceries? So as they make this transition, we'll be checking in. Obviously, clearly, when you move from another continent, we want to be just available, for whatever they might need. So as we understand what those needs are, we will share so that we can kind of be helpful to them. So hopefully here on the 8th. It looks like the calendar invite hasn't gone out, but it's going to go out today. It looks like July 9th, which is a Tuesday night, we're going to have a all campus network worship production family gathering with the Big Fish leading us off. That will be Mr. Dan Zimbardi himself. It'll be a chance for us to kind of be all together for the first time in a long time. I don't know, maybe ever, because there were other parts of our family before the split in the fall. And that's a really, really important night because we're going to cast vision. We're going to kind of lay the groundwork for what the relational dynamic looks like. We're going to put out expectations. Everyone's going to be operating with the same amount of information, which I think is really important. And priority number 1 is strengthening the relationship between the campus leads. That's priority number 1. So it's worship and production, working together, understanding, here's what your role is, here's what your role is. There's going to be accountability for that. There's going to be evaluations of that. But that is just a critical piece that's not there right now. That we need to get kind of like that's what we're coming into triage first. So I really, really love. There's going to be food just because why not? Why not eat if we're all going to be there? I want to keep it super effective and efficient. It's not going to be some 2.5 hour. I want to keep it nice and tight. Here's some food. Here's some information. Here's a hug. All right, go home. So I'm not going to try to make this some elongated thing. But if you need to adjust your hours for that day because of that, you can do so. So, any questions about that?
Do you know the time ish?
Probably 7.
Okay.
Around 7.
We'll
Yeah.
get a calendar invitation.
Yes, the calendar invite should be going out today. We're just working on some verbiage to send it out. I had to seal the deal with him when he could do it. So that's what it looks like. Also, be gracious. Isaiah's sabbatical happens to happen next month for a month. And so just throwing that out there to kind of he's gonna be on sabbatical from like July 8th, I think, to like August 7th or something. He is gonna come to the July 9th because I'm like, dude, I'm really sorry, but I gotta work with DZ and this is when he can do it. So he's like, I'll come. So just make sure that you're kind of keeping that in perspective too as we work a lot of these things out. So, okay, cool.
Praise God.
All right, last thing we're gonna do is because we're such a big group and getting bigger, we're gonna break down into small groups just for some time of prayer and encouragement. Eddie's gonna huddle up with. Who did I tell you?
Matthew, Harold, Tall Timothy.
Tall Tim. Yes, Richie, Delon, Tim with Eddie. If you report to Christina, you're going with her. I'm going to take Pablo, Danny, and Amber. We can use the table over here. We can kind of gather here. We can gather here. Just want this to be a time of encouragement. If there's something that you want the group to pray for, please ask them that. Something that you're celebrating, do that as well. Like let people go, dude, that's awesome. Way to go. That's really cool. And just spend some time kind of praying like for each other. So I'm gonna pray for Morgan. Morgan's gonna pray for Eddie. We're just gonna kind of like pray for each other real quickly before we head out. So cool.
Move.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, we'll